Okay, my name's Zakashi, guys, and in this video here we're going to be looking at some mechanics that are actually very much game breaking and can actually show a lot of promise in a unit when you're deciding to summon. Now, a lot of people always ask me, oh, how do you know if a unit's going to be good? How do you know if a unit's going to last long? Because I feel like longevity is a very big thing in this game. You don't want to spend your chrono crystals, then not even like a week later they're garbage or just countered by something. And if they're countered by something, you can't really stop that, because sometimes legends just be releasing the antichrist of whatever you're using. For example, when Ultra Super Vegeta dropped in the 4th anniversary, they dropped Cooler, but then after Cooler they dropped Beast Gohan, and you can't do anything about that if we're being honest. But outside of that, you still want to summon on a unit that's at least very effective and has some promise for the future. So we're going to be looking at some mechanics that actually have all of that, so you can actually decide for yourself in a lot of cases when you're looking to summon. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press the subscribe button, man. We're on this grind to 40k subscribers. All my social media is on the bottom of the screen, but I'm not going to hold you guys up any longer. Let's actually get into the video now. Now, before I go into this video, something I want to tell you guys is that this video, you should actually be considering the units that have as many as these as possible. If they have everything in this list, they will undoubtedly be a must summon and most likely be the best in the game. But if they only have one or two, you might have to consider how valuable that would be against units that already have maybe 5 or 6. So that's just something I want you guys to think about when you're going through this video, with factors of kits that actually are just game breaking or just definitely something that gives the edge over other units. Now, the first mechanic I'm actually going to look at is something that's quite important, especially within support units. Support units, it would be more effective, but when it's on an offensive unit, it's like, damn, they really have everything. This thing here, sub count reduction, is actually so annoying to deal with, because it will catch you off guard thinking that you've won, and all of a sudden they have this thing where they're able to just switch out, and you're just like, damn, you wasted a rush, you did an ultimate and you didn't think the enemy could come back in, stuff like that. If we look at Ultra Super Goji as an example that I want to bring up because I use them a lot. When you rush him, he actually lowers the sub counts by 5. So you can see here, where is it? Shortens ally sub counts by 5 when the enemy activates Rising Rush while his character is on the battlefield. So if you rise and rush him thinking he has no vanish, he can literally switch out at that instant, probably lowered 5 timer counts, and he's good. Another good example of a unit that did this, Vegeta when he Zenkai'd, I believe every time you hit one of his allies, the sub counts actually get reduced. If you actually find where it is in his kit, let me see. Here we go. Applies the following effects to self every time another battle member is hit with an enemy strike, arts, or blast attack. So you can see here, shorten sub count by 1. All of a sudden, you've done 3 arts cards thinking you've got probably like, maybe like 4 timer counts left. All of a sudden, you try to rush them, Vegeta's back in. And especially if you're a blue, you might not even kill him. Little things like that make a big difference, but I feel like sub count reduction is something that's very OP, but slept on because it works in the shadows. So that's the first one I want to start with, definitely sub count reduction. Number 2, something I really want to mention, I probably sent you astray with seeing sub count reduction. You probably didn't expect to see that, but if you think about it, it's probably very OP in battle, and it probably annoys you a lot more than you might realize. But number 2, I've got Blast Armor. I think this, in my opinion, is actually the best mechanic in the game, full stop, because it gives you an extra method of playing that could keep you alive against every other unit that doesn't have it. So it's actually just pretty stupid. You can see here basically what it does. You just go through all blast attacks, and imagine you're trying to win, you're trying to attack your opponent, but they just go through it. That's pretty much unfair, because at that moment you've been trying to attack them and you can't do nothing. But units having that, they just have the advantage straight out. If they have blast armor, for sure, there's not anything else I pretty much have to say about this. It just gives you an extra method of attacking that other units will not have. So if you've got blast armor, you're pretty much going to live for a long time. Even if you don't have anything else, you just have that extra method of going through. Maybe just blast armor cancelling. If you don't know about that tech, go watch a PvP guide. Just very effective overall. Gotta mention blast armor. Now this one here can come very clutch in a very late game situation. But of course, depending on how you use it and when you use it, it would even have more of an impact, and especially against who you use it on. So what I'm mentioning here is that ability to actually just cancel all of your enemies' buffs off of their main ability. Now there's a lot of support units that would actually make your units just insane, but imagine all those buffs just disappearing at instant. It basically makes all the effort for you to get all those buffs up useless. Some buffs have to be uncancelable, but you can see here with Kid Buu, whenever he just feels like it, he can take everything that's making you OP away, and that would actually make him less likely to die. Kid Buu does that. We have an example here of Purple SV. he actually also does that, very effective. They're just two I know that notoriously cancel your buffs just like that. So definitely think about them. Think about that when you're actually considering a new unit. With older units, obviously stats play a big factor, but I'll mention that later as well. Now I think it's time for me to mention something a lot more obvious, but tag switch units are definitely one of the most broken mechanics in the game, simply because they cover two element bases. We can see here the tag Goku and Vegeta blue bros, they are actually purple, but if you switch to Vegeta, they go in reverse. So it's not necessarily an element switch, it's a reverse of the element. So normally purple would be type advantage to green, and then it would be type disadvantage to yellow, but that would reverse. So the Vegeta side, when you tag switch, will be type advantage to yellow and actually type disadvantage to green. So the fact that you can cover both sides, and if an enemy isn't prepared to cover both sides, you would have the advantage in that sense. They also have a lot of healing factors, generally speaking, cover nullification. They just come with a generally good package. But the fact that they can switch elements is the main thing that I want to talk about, because they cover two bases and will have type advantage against you if they're able to just switch at a moment's notice. They'd be able to build that up through their arts cards and the fact that they've been hit quite a bit. So that type of gauge is actually very, very effective. With me mentioning tag switch units, I feel like they deserve their own thing on their own. But any unit that pretty much has a gauge is probably going to show some promise. Any unit. First I'm just going to start with the Ultras, because every Ultra has a gauge. Ultra Super Gogeta, his gauge works on him essentially using his arts cards. It fills up his gauge, and then every time he fills up the gauge, he actually gets a blue card. So it's just very, very effective. The blue card destroys your cards every single time. UGB builds up his gauge by actually taking damage, and then his gauge works on like an MUI counter type thing. If you use a blast card or very much any ranged attack, he just and then he can combo a blue or ultimate arts. Is actually insane. He also gains a lot of health when his gauge fills. We got Kaioken here. His gauge repeatedly, I believe, restores his vanish gauge every time it fills, and he also gets some buffs that actually just make him way more OP. You can see here, once unique gauge is full, he draws a green card, health, strike arts, blast arts, special move arts. You know, someone just subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you subscribing. But yeah, all of those buffs there just being very, very effective. Restoring the vanishing gauge is probably the most effective because it happens 5 times. And not even to go about Ultra Super Vegito, sorry, when he uses a strike card against the enemy blast, it just does a bit of damage, and he gets some other things like cover change nullification. So overall, you can see it's just very, very good. I didn't sleep on Broly as a defense type, but any gauge, any character that has a gauge, there's a lot of LFs that have a gauge as well. For example, we've seen with Beast Gohan, very similar to Ultra Super Gogeta, fills the gauge and then he gets a bunch of things, covers his nullification consistently. Any character that has a gauge always dominates for a long time. It's actually quite stupid, but that's just something that you should notice off rip. So yeah, gauges. Units that come with endurance in their package, generally speaking, will live for a long time because they just have 2 lives. Now, I will actually mention revival with this as well, but it seems like with revival units, they often come weaker than units that have endurance. So even though they have 2 lives and it stops the players, it basically just breaks the combo more than anything else. But endurance will actually keep you alive against rising rushes, and rising rushes literally, unless the unit is so specific, like Ultra Gogeta Blue, who just nullifies it, endurance of rising rushes, or like a unit like Ultra Super Gogeta who gets 30 timer counts off of his ultimate arts, because he can just permanently nullify endurance. Those units, tag droids are another example. I believe hit can, don't quote me on that. But endurance, generally speaking, unless there's a specific counter to it, so you have to time your ultimate arts to where they can kill, you know, things like that, endurance is very, very effective because it changes ultimately how a player will counter it. You have to just think about the fact that they have an extra life, and ultimately the units that have endurance seem to be more tanky than the units that have revival. If we look at the revival units, they all are outdated at this time. If we look at not Future Gosha, Perfect Cell, the revival Cell, he's very, very weak. He's the most glass unit in the game probably. Revival Gohan, Revhan, before his revival, at high stars he can do a lot more, but he's a legend limit character if we really think about that. If we also talk about the green Gohan over here, just not really kicking it, is he? So revival is good, but it seems very overrated. But endurance really more so. If a unit comes with endurance, you know they're going to be kicking it for a long time, because they often, what it definitely seems like, they come with better defensive stats than the revival unit. So Let me know what you guys think about that one with the take about the revival units, but I feel like endurance just seems more valuable, and it shouldn't be, but that's what it is. Another one to mention, any unit that has a consistent way of nullifying cover change, it will allow them to do long combos and in turn do a lot of damage, without a doubt, if they can consistently do it. So I feel like Beast Gohan is the one that really caused havoc in PvP, because you couldn't do anything if his combo started, and the fact that he's filled his gauge. When he fills his gauge, he's actually able to actually get cover change nullification. I always bug out when I'm trying to say that, but it's a very inconvenient thing that happens when he fills his gauge every single time, because you pretty much can't do anything. If I actually find where his gauge is in his kit, when a unique gauge is full, you can see here, applies the buff effect, nullifies special actions that activate when changing cover. In USG's Prime, I like using them as an example. Another unit that wreaked havoc in PvP. Every time he does a green card, he's quite outdated by the way right now. Every time he does a green card, he actually able to nullify cover change. You can't do anything about that. They're just two units that I know that blatantly consistently do that. Dragon Fist, for example, just for sake, when he released on his first 2 switches in, he nullifies cover change, but that's temporary and you have to make most use of those cover changes. But past that, you don't get a lot of value out of it, so you need to think about that as well. How it's implemented in their kit is very effective, is very important, sorry. So with Beast Gohan and USG, they can activate it almost at will, fill their gauge, green card. With Dragon Fist, you have to make most advantage of the first 2 switches in. Another good example, tag droids over here, when they do a green card, they just hit you with that combo and it's lasting forever. That alongside draw speed, I'm going to mention these two in tandem. So they're effective on their own, but cover change notification and draw speed together, it really will hurt you. And you need to really think about that when you see a unit that has that in their kit. It's actually mad annoying, man. It's mad annoying. Now, I've got 2 more to mention that I feel like are really just going to pretty much take it over the top. We've got units that are able to consistently nullify endurance. Now, we've got the tag droids here. With this unit here, you don't even have to think about anything when you're playing. You don't have to think about, oh, they might live after the fact, or they might do this, they might do that. It doesn't really matter with them, because no matter what they do, they're gonna break through. So you having something that's meant to make you have more life in your game, it doesn't matter, because they're just gonna nullify their endurance permanently. They have it 24/7, which is actually very annoying to deal with. If I can find where it says it in their kit, let's see. Applies the following effects upon landing a strike or blast art still. These are just buffs that get added to them. I believe it's in their first unique ability then. Mad annoying. You can see here, nullifies enemy restore health when it reaches 0 effect when this character attacks. 24/7. Another unit that has this, purple rose, another just jarring unit with blue cards and ultimate arts. If he's consistently doing that, it's gonna catch you off guard and actually do a lot to you. It's not gonna be a convenient thing to deal with. You can see here, nullifies the enemies restore health when it reaches 0 attack. So yeah, I feel like just any unit that has that permanently or a consistent way of getting it, again, very effective to add to your roster. But again, it's not just these things. You kind of how many of these things they can have in their kit at once. I should probably mention this, but it depends on the unit, I feel like. But the ability to lock in somehow, just locking in causes a very big inconvenience, because if you lose your vanish and you can't switch out because you're locked in, I'm not talking about increasing time accounts, specifically locking in, it causes a lot of issues in PvP, because once you lose your vanish step and you have no way to recover it, if the enemy aggroes you or they have a rise and rush, the only way to counter that is by having a vanish step or having a rise and rush to force to time those taps, and you would actually be wasting your rise and rush over the fact that you clashed. You don't want to waste your rise and rush like that. So the ability to just generally lock in is very annoying. We've seen that early in the game with this guy here. If you actually supercharge his blue card, right? Supercharge his blue card, he actually gains the ability to lock you in for free time accounts. With that, nobody's pretty much able to lower the sub counts that fast, but that's obviously increasing time accounts. There are just units that just lock you in just like that. For example, we've seen him wreak havoc. I believe Hero Hercule, he actually locks you in for 10 time accounts. If we look at his main ability, no switching for 10 timer counts. It's not 10 timer counts up, it's completely no switching. It's completely different from increasing the timer count. So that's something that must be mentioned. If they have the ability to do this in some way, shape or form, definitely for sure they're going to cause some problems. Now the last thing I want to mention on this list out of anything else is definitely the ability to break combos. Now no matter what you have in your kit, if you don't have ki, you're unable to continue your combo. No matter who you are in the game, you need ki to fight, you need ki to press cards. Cards will always have cost. That's the bottom line of the game. So if an enemy is able to reduce your ki somehow, or break your combo by reducing your ki, or by any other thing like increasing cost to make you not be able to continue your combo breaking methods is what is really the focal point of this point. You can do it by increasing your enemy's arts cost to a ridiculous amount to where they can't even press cards. You can do it by destroying all of their cards effectively at some point in their combo. You can do it by reducing their ki so they can't press any more cards. Things like that basically just break the combo so they can't continue. And that is actually something that would actually stop the game and let you reset and actually get another chance to get priority. We've seen a big break in the game with Pan actually having that. When you hit her, you consistently lose ki every time you hit her, which is actually mad annoying. I believe it's in her second ability because I didn't see it there. The following effects occur every time this enemy is hit. Every time when hit with a strike or blast, you can see here all enemy sub count up, so that's for the first time every switch. And then you can see here reduce enemy ki by 15. Very annoying. Blue Zamasu has something like that in his kit as well. Very annoying. But I feel like there's going to be a lot more units that roll out that have the ability to do this, so just pay attention with that. Vados, when she switches in, destroys your cards. Future Gohan destroys your cards as well. Just some examples I'm mentioning. These units just having the ability to break your combo. My camera sold there. Are very annoying to deal with, so there's something that you should really consider when actually summoning on a unit. Now I did say the last point was going to be the biggest point, but at the end of the day I feel like the biggest thing that's going to make a difference no matter what when it comes to doing offenses is stats. Now their stats, their numbers are generally consistent. Most units will just have decent stats, but then on top of that you gotta look for their damage inflicted buffs in their unique abilities. That will really put them over the edge, on top of the fact that when they release they're boosted. So if they have a lot of damage inflicted buffs in their unique abilities, that would also mean that maybe after the boost they would actually be very effective, because they've already got it installed in their kit, not just the stats but the unique abilities that actually show the damage inflicted. So bear that in mind when you're considering any unit in the game, because it really makes a difference on how long they will live in terms of their longevity. UGB is an example here, 120%, which is insane. Just having that when the battle starts is insane, on top of the fact that he has very good stats on its own, so that already speaks for itself. Yeah, just definitely consider the stats. But yeah, hopefully this video was helpful. Consider all of these again when you are summoning for a unit. It's not just one or two, it's definitely how many they can compile into their kit at once. It makes a big difference to how valuable they'll be in the long term, because stats will undoubtedly fall off. People get power crept, it happens, but anything else they have in their kit could still bring them some life even a year or two down the line. We've already seen that with Ultra Super Goji, who lasted over a year. The tag droids are still lingering around now and then, I don't even know how, but it happens. A lot of these units live a long time because they just have a couple things in their kit in combination to make them live for a long time. So consider all of those, man. Press the subscribe button. We're on this grind to 40,000 subscribers. All my social media links on the bottom of the screen, so check me out on all of those. Again, we're on this grind to 40k, so definitely press that red button. I'm gonna leave it like that though, guys. I appreciate you guys for watching the video. My name's Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.